I've been with Bondhus Corporation for 45 years. When I started with Bondhus Corporation, it was Bondhus Tool Company. John had an office in downtown Monticello, and it was more a job shop than a tool manufacturer. We did a lot of the work for the nuclear power plant out west of town. We did a lot of the job work for that, and we're making some of the screwdrivers that Bondhus sells. As that business grew, we started making L-wrenches, and our distributor base grew. John Bondhus, the owner of the company, was traveling to Europe. We had an importer in Japan. Everyone said, don't sell to Japan. They're going to copy everything you do. We still own an office in Japan, and it's never been an issue. It's one of our biggest areas of sales. So I started in 1973. In 1974, the building that Bondhus is in now, the bottom part, was built, and we moved here, and we pretty much were doing the business. Tool sales was growing, and we developed in 1976 a new case that the L-wrenches went in. The sales went from kind of flat to spiking because of this case. We were selling probably at that time maybe 5 or 6 countries, and a lot of distribution. We were adding manufacturers reps. Manufacturers reps sell down to, they visit the distributors who buy our product, and they're paid on commission. Then we started hiring people, and as we're hiring more people, John decided, wow, we have all these people. We've got to start doing some other things. So in 1976, we went up with the building. We put a layer on top. John started getting into going to classes, little by little, reading a lot of books. He read every book I think that was published. He did not have a college degree. He graduated from Big Lake High School. John was from a family of 13 children, 12 boys and 1 girl, and he was, I think only 3 of the children were high school graduates. So he believed in reading, believed in what's going on out there. How can I do better? How can I sell better? How can I do better? So we were hiring sales managers, sales reps, and in the 80s, we were doing much more. We hired a person to do our international sales, do the traveling, because John had 4 kids at home, and it was getting hard to be gone that much. So we did a lot of, and then he started getting into, let's go to classes. So we started doing a lot of classes through the University of Minnesota. And we were learning how to do time management, how to prioritize, how to get along with each other. John, around this point, set up a fantastic compensation program where we were using as a base pay the same wages as the Minneapolis base pay, which was higher than Monticello or St. Cloud. But that was our base pay. And to this day, we are still using that same ratings of how you judge it, pay. It talks about accountability. It talks about mental effort. It talks about physical effort. It talks about, there's another one. But it's every job. We were learning how to write job descriptions. And in writing the job descriptions, you're learning how to then rate these jobs. In fact, as I was cleaning out some stuff the other day, I found my original book. And like I say, to this day, we are still using the same forms, the same how do you rate a job. So everybody is rated appropriately. The person next to you isn't getting paid higher because somebody likes them more. It's all, and there's a committee that does the rating, and everybody has a say at the committee of where somebody should be rated. So nothing is based on favoritism. If you're part of a family, it's based on the work you do. And then in that work, you've got levels. You can be, the bottom level, the medium level, or exceeds. And I think I was told one time only 5 people in this company have ever hit exceeds, because John always wanted more than 100% from his employees. He believed that just doing your job was medium. He wanted over and above. He wanted, what did you do to deserve more? And he was really good at letting, if you reported to him, letting you tell him why you should get more. He usually didn't write your performance appraisal. He wanted you to do it. And to this day, we still do performance reviews once a year. They also have a thing called COS, which the HR person meets with each group, each department, and talks about what's working in the company and what isn't working in the company. Examples, there have been things where, this is weird, but the toilets aren't working, so you get a plumber in to do that. The phones aren't working. We just got a new phone system because there were issues in areas we didn't know about. But everybody in the company has a say in what's working, what isn't working. If there's issues between departments, how do you iron those out? You don't know until somebody tells you. So, 28 minutes. So that's, so then in the 1980s, I decided, okay, I had been working in the office with John. Our then vice president said, Diane, we have a real issue. And I said, what is that? And he said, I have nobody over packaging and distribution. You've got people in the office. I need somebody over packaging and distribution. So I went and I said, but I don't know anything about it. And he goes, you'll learn. So I was over packaging and distribution. What had helped with my distribution, and that was shipping internationally and domestically, when I first started with John and we had our plant or our facility in Japan, he would not let me use freight forwarders at that time. I had to learn how to get packages from here to there using the post office, using whatever means possible. And I had one package from Africa that came back 3 or 4 times. I finally got it right. But once I figured out how to do it, then he'd let me hire freight forwarders. But he wanted me to know how to do it so they weren't pulling the wool over our eyes. We could question them. We knew what was real. And he kind of believed in doing that with everything. You learn it, then you can hire it out, because he kind of didn't have 100% trust. So I was over packaging and distribution for 5 years, 5 or 6. And then somebody said, hey, we need somebody to do shop floor scheduling. So I did that for a couple of years, scheduled all the product going through the facility downstairs. Then I did purchasing for a while, traveled, went to Pennsylvania a couple of times seeing handle manufacturers. We had 2 steel providers out there, so you'd go out and visit with them. I can honestly say you end up learning a lot. I had no idea how our steel bars were made. So I had the opportunity to go visit the mills and see how things are made and work with the people. Then I was like, okay, purchasing, I'm kind of bored. So about 90, I came back to sales and marketing. And for a brief period of time, John had me as sales manager, and I finally said, no, I do not want to be hiring and firing reps. I can do it. I do not want to do that much travel. I have a family. I'll run the office. I'll take care of that and help the salesman. Let's get a good sales manager hired. And that's what we have done. We've had international sales managers and domestic sales managers. I've worked with importers. We now have 40 importers, 40 different countries. Some of them have been with us for, I think England, Mike and I have worked together probably 35 years or more. They're like family. We do a lot of importers come here for a visit. Every other year, Bondhus goes to the, it's in Germany, a hand tool meeting, and they have the importers come there. They show them what's new. Since I started with the company, and we started with our screwdrivers, then we did L wrenches, then we did bits. Now we have, we've added stubby L wrenches, which means the short arm on an L wrench is very short. We've put balls on both ends of the stub, so it's called a stubby double ball. We've added buttons on the end of our ball end tools where it's called a pro hold, so your screw is not going to fall off. It holds the screw in place, so when you're using a tiny, tiny screw, and you're trying to get in someplace, you don't drop the screw until you get it into the opening. We have different finishes. When I started with John, we sent a lot of the heat treat out and had it colored outside. We now do all of our heat treating inside. We do send out for anything that is not black. We have a product that's called Bright Guard. That is kind of a nickel, kind of a shiny finish. That's sent outside because of the regulations of using that material. The Color Guard, we have color-coded L wrenches. That's sent outside. We make T-handles. We have a plastisol on the handle, and that is sent outside. For a period of time, we had a facility, John owned a facility in Barbados. When was the first time I was there? I was there in 94. Probably sometime in the 80s, middle 80s, we opened a plant in Barbados. And we were shipping from Barbados to our importers because anything shipping out of Barbados was duty-free. So for Bondhus, it was a tax. We made good, it was a tax issue. And for our importers, they got the product duty-free. So we did that for 10 years. As I will say my term is growing up in the company, because when I started there were 4 employees, and now between Monticello and Japan, it's close to 100. So in my growing up with the company, went to a lot of classes. I probably have 2 college degrees just due to all the different, I went to all the classes on supervision, on management, strategic planning, working with big customers, how to get and keep a big customer, purchasing, went to classes on that, went to classes on customer service. After we quit putting a lot of money into sending all the employees to classes, we kind of cut back during, I think it was in the 80s when there was the financial crisis, like in 85 maybe, when everything crashed. John would send 1 or 2 people to a class with the idea that when they returned to Bondhus, they would share what they learned with the people here. I had the opportunity to come back and teach a customer service class to everyone in the company. Didn't matter if you were in packaging, if you were downstairs in manufacturing, it was customer service, meaning the person that you work with in the company is your customer. The tools that are made downstairs go upstairs. They're your customer. And that we all had to work together. So I had the opportunity to train that throughout the company. The other one I went to that was so exciting was called functional analysis. And it was meeting with employees and having them write down what their functions were, what they did. And what we found is some of them were doing reports and giving them to people. Nobody ever looked at them. We didn't analyze why those reports were being done. It was something somebody had wanted years ago and had ceased to be important. So in that we saved, I don't remember, but at one point I had it documented how many hours of work we saved. Or you'd find a person in this department and a person in this department doing the exact same thing. And so it was a very, very interesting project on how to streamline what we're doing and go to the person you're doing reports for saying, exactly what do you need? And that's the kind of report you gave instead of what you'd always been preparing and giving to them. Then I got to go to Barbados and do the same training down there because they had learned what we had taught them, which means it wasn't correct. You know, we had some of this duplicate processes going on down there. Bondhus keeps adding, like I say, product. We have different finishes. We have, we came in 2012. We added a new computer system, which was so exciting. It is so powerful. And so I was lucky enough to help set that all up and learn everything there was to learn about it. And so now we're helping. We bought a company in Germany, a screwdriver company, not the one we're in partnership with, but a different one that we sell just international. We sell those screwdrivers just internationally. And so now we're helping them learn our computer system. John would push you to your limits. If someone had told me in 1980 that I could stand in front of a room of 50 men and do training, I would have laughed in their face and said, "You're crazy." But I've done it. I stood in the front of a room of 50 of our manufacturers reps and did the training. Like John said, they have 8 to 10 or more lines. You have 1. You're the expert. You can do the training. And that's what he was with everybody. He totally believed in us. And when he was traveling at the beginning, I was there 6 months to a year, and he'd be gone for a month. And I go, what if I make a mistake? And he'd say, there's nothing you can do that's going to bankrupt the company. You have a 50% chance of getting it right. If you screw up, you'll never do that again. And he was right. I did screw up, but I never did it again. And it was nothing that could bankrupt the company. He had that kind of faith in every employee. What was one of his sayings was, when he sent people to class or would train people in-house, he loved making a silk purse out of a sow's ear. He had the silliest sayings. But he believed people could do more than what they were doing. He believed people were much more capable of doing better, growing, learning. All the machines we have that are running downstairs were built internally. We have hired tool makers that build all the tooling, build the machines, help design the new products. We have not gone outside of this building to design a new product. Our T-handles are the only T-handles that are welded. Our ball is the only one that has the right degree, and our hardness, we use the steel is when we came up with the proprietary parts of the steel. It's called protanium. No one else makes it. The steel company makes it for us, and only us. We are the ones that came up with it. The amount of all the different alloys that are in steel is ours. Even our heat treat process is different than what anybody else can do. We can't send our heat treat out because ours has a special way of doing it where our tools are soft enough, they're ductile enough where they're not going to break off and shatter. It'll be a clean break. But yet they're hard where they're going to do the job. And we're the only company that has that. And these were all John's dreams, ideas. He died 10 years ago, and the company has flourished and kept growing because of what he put in place, because of his dreams, because of his goals. He put in place programs. Everybody said, they're not going to work. This isn't, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? We started a program in 2002 called One Source, which means a distributor would only sell Bondhus. They'd get the best discount. They'd get free freight. Everybody said, you give free freight away, you're going to go broke. They get an extra discount if they do promos. If the customer is too lazy to change their computer or they are not set up to do promos, they get a higher discount. We are the top in the U.S. in the industrial market. We have two of the biggest catalog houses that only carry Bondhus. And that was one of John's goals, but he didn't live to see it. But the company has continued, has grown, has flourished because of what he set in place. Doing better than what you think you can do, going the extra mile. And we listen to employees. There's always employee meetings. Every month, our president, Mike Blackston, who was at the time our production manager, he is now president, and we have a board of directors that he reports to. But every month there's an employee meeting, and we go over where the sales are at, what profit sharing, what money is put into profit sharing, what big new customers there are, customers were buying. We have purchased a couple tool companies, and I would say our employees pretty much know everything that's going on. That was one of John's beliefs. He sometimes had a lot of meetings. Everybody said too many meetings, but at least once a month everybody gets to hear what's going on from the top down. The president talks, our salesmen talk, HR talks, and the IT department kind of tell everybody what's going on. Like, you're getting a new phone system, you're getting new computers, we've got a new program. So everybody in the company is aware of what's going on. There's also a question and answer period. So I think that's something that a lot of companies don't do. We still have, like I said, we still have our how we get rated every year. We still have where everybody has a voice, what's going on. There's also a suggestion box that is opened every month for people having suggestions. I could just go on for hours because a lot of the people, I've been here the longest. I'm gonna miss this place. I'm retiring in the end of June 28th, and it's gonna be a different life. And we have a lot of employees that have been here 30 plus years. It's like once you start here, you don't leave. There's no reason to leave. You can move to a different department. A lot of people start upstairs in packaging and distribution and move downstairs to production. The downstairs is run like the floors are immaculate, the machines. When I started the mills, there was one man standing there hand cranking every side of the ball end. And now one man will be running 6+ machines that are doing that. It's all computerized. This was all done in-house. How long have we got?
That's a great story. I have to give a little bit of background. I came here, it could have been early 90s, maybe even earlier than that, as part of the first video project I did, to talk to John Bondhus in the context of innovative and kind of ethically sensitive manufacturing. He seemed to have more ideas than anybody else about how to do this. And so, I heard about his death, and I thought, well, I've got to come back sometime and get the rest of the story. The first part was too good. I got to see what happened next, and also get another perspective. I remember when I met John the first time. He had this book, which was the company philosophy, and basically he walked me through the philosophy.
Oh yes, we did that for years. We went over and fine-toothed what it is and what's the company about.
So, but you must have been in a certain way pre-book. Some of the things that ended up in that book must have gotten cooked up in these rides to the University of Minnesota and back.
We went to classes on how to export. We went to classes on how to import. We went to classes. John would have, even at times, John would have a third party come in and analyze what was going on. A guy that would come in and talk to everybody and kind of figure out, okay, where are you at? Where do you need to be? Type thing. He was always open to What can I do better? You're never, ever there. You know, he had you constantly, you're going to get there, and I can honestly say, yes, I am one of the ones that got there. But he always wanted improvement. What did you do this year to make Bondhus money, besides what I'm paying you for? Like, okay, you're in sales. What did you come up with? Did you come up with a program? Did you come up with something? What idea? And he's done this with every employee. What idea did you come up with that wasn't on your job description, that wasn't part of what I'm paying you for? And that's how you get rated higher and get paid more. But he really believed people had it, and they just had to get it out. And we'd try things. We'd try things people would come up with. And you'd say, what have you got to lose? Nothing. You have nothing to lose, but you have a lot to gain. You have the person being really happy. You have the person knowing that you trust them. And once a person does that, what are they going to do? They're going to look for better ways, how to improve their job, how to make their job more streamlined, how to make their job better. Because like John said, I can't do it. I'm not on the phones. I'm not talking to customers. I'm not entering orders. How can I make it better? The only people that can make it better are the people doing it. And I think that's why we've been so successful and have kept our sales have, I can't remember what they were on, but our sales are kind of higher than what John's goal was. If you can believe it, he had this goal of where he wanted sales to be, and we've topped that without hiring tons of people. One thing we do a lot of is we do a lot of what's called outplacement, where somebody will drive up, they'll load, say they're making sets of 13 different sizes in their vehicle, different parts, and they go home, put them together, and bring them back. We do a lot of stuff where people do it at home because we're out of room. We don't have room to have that many people sitting around here. We are adding on to the building again, starting this fall, if you can believe it. Because we're just growing leaps and bounds. And at the beginning of, was it last year, the guy salesmen were going out and everybody's saying, oh, things are flat, things aren't going. And Bondhus was up 3%, Bondhus was up 4%. By the end of the year, Bondhus is up 10%. And it's funny because we've got certain distributors, certain categories we watch. They're kind of our bellwether of what's going on in the business. Okay, what is McMaster Car doing? Are their sales up? They're kind of one, if their sales are going down, you know there's an issue. So we have these, and the guys would be out in the field talking to other vendors, at shows and stuff. How's your year going? Oh boy, we're holding our own. And our guys felt guilty saying, well, we're up. So I know a lot of it is, yes, the management team we have now is great. But a lot of it is what John put in place. And we keep following. We have not changed the mission. We have not changed the corporate philosophy. Everything is still the same.
And how would you summarize, you said a lot along the way, but how would you summarize what it is that's the heart of this place?
Belief in employees. I would say letting employees have a say, making it a family, it's not just a place to show up for. I know out where I work, and I'm assuming, because I know everybody else, people want to come to work. They want to do a good job. They want to get the tools out, because you're going to get profit sharing if there's profits. You're going to get a paycheck every week. After 4 weeks of being here, you get 4 weeks vacation. You get Minneapolis wages. And I think it's just the things that John put in place that it's the employee, it's really the customers, their orders that drive it, but the employees are important. The employees are important. They just ordered all new T-shirts for employees. I guess it's where it's not just you go in, you clock in, you do your work, and you leave. I've seen hourly people, the girls, customer service and stuff will go, do you know, I woke up the other night thinking, how many hourly employees do that, and where the boss will say, that's a good idea. Let's try it.
I remember John saying that he thought there were quite a number of employees back in the late 80s, early 90s who were more excited about coming to work than he was. He said, you gotta get people as excited about coming to work as the president is. Or
Yes.
He had great lines.
Yes, and they have really neat programs like in the morning. Like I know in the back in shipping and distribution, they stretch before they go to work. Up here, they go into the conference room and they stretch before you start work. And he allows you to go for a 10-minute walk. Morning and afternoon if you want. Just to get out, get fresh air, walk. We have a health assessment to keep the insurance costs down. And plus that 10-minute walk, plus the stretch, plus you get your break. But he believes, or everybody believes, if people do that, they work better.
Now, one of the things he and I talked about a lot that maybe has gone a bit by the wayside is the education benefit. At that point, he was allocating 15%
Yep.
over competitive wages for an education account.
Yeah, we had a lot of people that finished their degrees, and he paid for them. We had one gentleman that went on, he always wanted to be an EMT. John paid for it. And to this day, I think he's still an EMT down at North Memorial. I went on to get my real estate license and thought that's what I wanted to do. Got it and went, nah. But I could continue working while he paid for that. But like he said, once I said, nah, I don't want to do it, I'm a much happier employee. And I found that this is what I really wanted. So that has kind of fallen by the wayside. Which is sad, but John's not here. But that was one of the things in the board, and But at the time, I think it was good because now we're hiring, like I kind of mentioned before. When we first started, people wouldn't drive from Minneapolis to work in Monticello. Why would you do that? Except if you worked for the power plant. Nobody was driving from out of town to work in Monticello. So I think we had to educate the people we had here. Well, now we're able to hire people that have degrees, and we are looking for, people that have experience and come with degrees.
Now, I hang around with people who believe in education. I have a feeling that none of them believe in education in the way or to the extent that John did.
Oh, no. And I think it was because he didn't go on. And he believed that, okay, you're young. You get a job, you get married, but your job isn't your passion or what you want to do. His passion was the business, so he couldn't, filter in there. But people were not, because once you have a family and you're working, you can't afford to get a degree. You can't afford to go to school. And so he would help people. And he brought a lot of, in those days, a lot of stuff was up and coming. Businesses were just, you went there, you did your job, you left. But all of a sudden was this revolution about, there's time management, there's all these different classes that when you went to college weren't even out there. You could get a degree to be a teacher or this or this or this, but there really wasn't anything on day-to-day business. And he was bringing in all these books about, what were some of the books? There was one with a no in it. There was one about Who Ate My Cheese. I think every book that was out there, he would read, and we had a library, and you could check books out and read them. He even had Tony Robbins. We spent a weekend, not with Tony, unfortunately, but with video. We were at a hotel, and it was videoed in a whole weekend on power of positive thinking or whatever Tony Robbins had. We did that. There must have been 20 employees that were able to attend. It was all the managers and salespeople and different things. But he believed in getting people to do that. I broke a board with my hand.
Well, as someone who went along with him to these things and saw how it kind of worked out, sort of what kind of a grade would you give to the university for its business classes? I mean, did they end up being as useful as John thought they were going to be?
They were, because we didn't know what we didn't know. Because I was going to college to be a social worker. Then I went to business school. Well, in business school, what do you learn? I learned how to back up and sit in a chair properly. I learned math. I learned how to type. I learned how to take shorthand. No, I didn't. I learned speed writing, speed reading. But you didn't learn the stuff you needed to know when you're in a little company and you have to wear a lot of hats. There was no class on prioritizing. There was no class on working with some person on the phone who wasn't very kind. There were no classes at business school on how do you get and keep customers. These things all came about. Yeah, you got the basics, but it's like you said, you could teach, but until you know how to do it, Yeah, I could probably teach something, but I maybe, at one point John thought I could be, this is really hilarious, manager over production. I just looked at him and I said, huh? Well, yeah, you can use two of the guys down there, one that's a tool maker and one that's and I said, John, if I sat down with one of those guys in the shop and tried to give them their performance review, they're going to laugh me out on the street. I don't even know how to turn on a machine. and I am going to review how they're doing. I said, let's get real here. You hire somebody. And he did. But
So your story in this company is, refusing opportunities for advancement.
they were, because it didn't, I wouldn't set myself up for that. It's like one time I had the opportunity to go to Japan to work a show, and I had one of the other girls go. I said, no, I have no desire to go to Japan. John would let you, he believed in people. It was amazing. It was amazing. We did, he was so, I don't know if you knew this, but when I started with him, we had to hire another girl because I broke my leg, couldn't walk. And he was also the president of North American Native Fish Association. So he would have me putting together this brochure to go out to, and I'm going, John, we have business to do. His fish were more important, so we hired another girl to work on his fish. When he died, he had bought land down in southern Minnesota where he was going to be raising fish. That was going to be his retirement. Raising different kinds of fish, North American native fish.
Well, I'd often wondered about that fish enterprise, because as he told his story, he started out mostly being bored with the company and basically interested in fish.
Yes, we were.
And the problem was, how am I going to keep myself going to work every day instead of going into that hole where I can watch the fish?
Well, it was funny because people told him, don't have an office in Japan. We still own an office in Japan. They said, do not open a plant in Barbados. It's not going to work. You're going to end up losing money. It was fantastic. Do not go to Russia. Now, I can say that one didn't work out real well. We at one point were in Russia until a neighbor of where we had our offices was bombed because they weren't willing to pay. And John wasn't willing to pay, so we came home.
Yes.
But he, whatever people said, don't do, that was one thing you didn't do, was say don't. One of the other things, I learned things the hard way with John. And I turned around and used it when I was down in Barbados. One day, something, and I made the mistake of saying, that's not my job. And his comment to me was, young lady, anything in this company is your job. If you see something that needs to be done, you do it. It doesn't matter whose job it is. It needs to get done, and at that moment in time, it's your job. I was down in Barbados, and somebody had swept up all on the floor, and metal strapping was sticking out. When you'd walk by, it would slap your legs. So one of the guys, and I said, can you pick this up? And he goes, it's not my job. I used the same line on him. It was picked up immediately. But whatever, John wasn't above answering the phone, and we're all that way. As managers, this company's never had a manager that sits in their office and manages. We're all working. We've always been working managers, where you do the same thing as your employees do. If one of your employees is out, you answer the phone. And John was really good about listening to what, that was the other thing that a lot of manufacturers do not do. John would listen to what the distributors wanted, what their end users were telling them they needed in the field. And that's why we invented so much stuff. Because he'd listen to, why aren't you buying our tools? What is it, And he would hear what people needed. Freight was a biggie. and just different things. And okay, if I give you free freight, what am I going to get? We'd get all their business. So he was very good about kind of like listening to the employees, but he would be listening to on the street. He loved to go to distributors and kind of like snoop around, listen. You know, what is it people want? What is it people need?
A little bit from my early conversation is coming back, and that was John was afraid of size. I mean, I remember him saying, you know, there are these things we can do, and they make a lot of sense. And they'll make the company better. I don't know how a big company could do it, you know. And I think there was a sense that...
Well, we can react faster.
Yeah.
We can react faster. You get a big company, and we've had some people working here that work for big companies and are used to layers and are used to having a secretary or a this or a that. And John is like, no, you do it yourself, you know. But we can react. If something, what did we see in the marketplace? One of the salesmen went to see one of our biggest private label accounts, and they had gotten this stubby double ball from overseas. I bet you in a week we had invented a stubby double ball twice as good as that, with a better neck, the whole thing. But that's how fast we can react to what needs to be out there, and we had it out in the market in the U.S. We can turn around things. There's no bureaucratic, you have to go through all these layers to get something done.
It's inspiring. It really is.
You know, that's happened so many times. He'll see something, or even our president or one of the two, they'll see something or read something, and we can react. Just a very fast reaction. Very, we don't have to go to this level and then have it approved and go to another level. You just do it. It's kind of we could be a Pepsi or Nike, just do it.
Well, but Pepsi and Nike can't just do it anymore. Is there a limit to how big you can get? I mean, you've been acquiring companies, you've been growing,
At this moment, no. Like I say, we're adding on to the building.
But will you reach a point where you lose your speed, you lose your ability to react fast?
I don't know. Not if we continue to analyze our processes and make sure everything is running smooth. What I've been working on, because I hired someone to do my job, so I've been just doing project work. One of the projects I'm doing right now is redoing safety stock on products, because we've had new products added. Of course, the safety stock you put in is never correct because you don't know how it's going to sell. The one I was working on this morning, everything is doubled. Twice is going out. So they're making it more often than what they should, instead of making a group and then, so everything is doubled, but it's not showing up on the computer because no one's had the time to go in and change the safety stock levels. So it's just being aware of what is needed. Maybe some of the products that aren't moving, maybe do analysis down the road and say, don't make those anymore, see where we're at. The one project, or the one company that we brought all the product in, that one's a piece of cake. The other one, they're going to continue shipping out of their facility. We've just bought them, we own them, but they're going to continue doing the shipping from their facility, or they're going to send it up here and consolidate it. If it's going overseas, we'll consolidate it for them. So we have such a good team about how to make things work without bringing all the stuff here. They're going to continue doing what they do in Minneapolis and continue shipping there from there. And if we find new accounts for them, they will set them up and do it from there. And if it's international, they'll send it up here as their consolidation point, and it'll just go with our product. But they'll do the billing and everything from there.
Yeah. There's a pattern I know about from the time I was reading corporate horror stories, which I did a lot of once. And it's the pattern of somebody with some money looking for a company that's trusted, buying it out, and then gradually making it into a company that nobody can trust and making a lot of money in the process. I mean, have you been the object of takeover efforts of any sort? Is anybody trying to buy the Bondhus name?
No. There was a company we were bidding on. And Mike was there bidding. It would have fit perfect. We were outbid by Chinese, and they were willing to go no matter what it was. And they totally dismantled the company and took it to China. People are all out of work, but it was one that the bank had taken over, so nobody had a say. But it would have fit really well, and now it's non-existent. But even with, as small as our industry is, I have watched Alan buy Holochrome, talk to the people at Holochrome, we were selling to them. They take these people, they pull everything out of their brains, work them tons of hours, and then all of a sudden, sorry, you're out of here. They get everything out of you and you're out. I saw it happen when American Tool bought Chesco out in Nebraska. People I worked with, oh yeah, we were bought out, they're keeping us. Oh, I've been working 50, 60 hours a week. Pretty soon, they're out of there. Big companies that do takeovers are not like Bondhus. I can say when we've talked about taking over, we leave the company and try to make it run from here. It's not our goal to take a company and, the one we did buy was out of Taiwan or something. But, when you're bidding against the Chinese and they want it, they're going to get it. And then there sits the empty building. All the people lost their jobs and they took it to China, and they think it's going to sell on that name, but it won't. It will for a while, but eventually it won't.
Right. I want to end with a very small issue relatively, but it's one that's important. The bane of manufacturing has been for a long time the repetitive stress, keeping the injuries down on the shop floor. How's that worked for you folks?
We have minimal injuries. Minimal. We have a person that's over our safety, and she goes around and checks that, makes sure there are guards where there needs to be on the machines. You have eye wash stations, you have, it's a big thing in our company, the safety. And when OSHA comes in, they find it's never been a big deal.
I expect with computerization, the repetitive stress is kind of...
Yeah, there isn't. Years ago, those guys would stand there all day milling these things, and now it's all... They set up and they walk around, check it, move stuff.
Yeah.
And come up with ideas on how they could maybe have it run better. Let's see, if we had it go from here to here, they come up with what's going to work better.